Have you ever wondered how different logistics companies deliver mails, parcels, and goods across the globe? In order to deliver goods from one place to another, they use a network of transportation that includes roadways, railways, waterways, and airways, separately and in combination. You need to have a detailed plan in place for such smooth flow of materials along any supply chain. There are different planning methods to create feasible cross-location plans to do this. In SAP SCM, Supply Network Planning, or SNP, is one such planning tool. The SNP is a period-based, rough-cut, medium to long-term planning tool that uses Capable to Match, or CTM, Optimizer, Deployment, SNP heuristics for planning. All these methods have various features, and they try to match supply with available demand. Several companies use a combination of these planning methods to achieve their business requirement. In case of a logistics company, they can use SNP heuristics for their rapid cross-location, quantity-based planning, which also takes care of the procurement and distribution. In this session, let's look at the SNP heuristics process in SAP SCM. But what is SNP heuristics process? What are its functions and how is the SNP heuristic process executed? SNP heuristics is a quantity-based, rapid, cross-location planning method. The plans include receipts for procurement, production, and distribution within the supply network on a cross-plant periodically. The SNP heuristic plans a constant flow of material throughout the supply chain. As a long-term plan, it also gives you an overview of the products to be procured or produced for each location. The SNP heuristic schedules infinitely. It does not check material and capacity simultaneously, and hence the generated SNP planned orders may not be feasible. The program capacity leveling is used to plug this gap and level the capacity. In case of an overload, it also generates an alert, and if there is a capacity overload while planning, then they can be reduced as part of a repair-based planning process with the help of capacity leveling. You can use SNP capacity leveling to clear resource overloads by moving orders or partial order quantities into previous or subsequent periods. Moreover, you can transfer orders to alternative resources during the same period. Other than capacity leveling, you also need to plan your deployment and transportation for the raw materials as well as finished products. Using deployment and the Transport Load Builder, or TLB, the actual quantities of stock to be transferred are determined in the short-term area. For effective use of TLB, you need to have all demands grouped in various classes, such as in terms of products, locations, and time of delivery. All existing demands for a given product at a location are grouped by heuristic processing into a total demand per period. Once the demands are streamlined and mapped, you need to streamline and plan your procurement. You can use a lot sizing procedure and quota arrangements of the heuristic run for each source. This is to determine the valid sources of supply and the quantities to be procured. These demands are then passed through the supply chain. Once the planning is complete for various levels, you need to make them available at various levels. This is to help them plan in detail and facilitate seamless integration of all departments. To bring about such integration, SNP Heuristics works on the planning book and data view. SNP Heuristic uses the transaction /SAP/APO/SNP01 and program SAP/APO/RSN/PDRP1 to function. The key figure total demand is the release demand to SNP from demand planning and other demand elements, such as distribution demand and dependent demand. SNP Heuristics works on MRP2 concept, meant for material requirement planning. So what are the functions of heuristics? The heuristic performs the following functions. 1. Executes cross-location planning of receipts to cover demands. 2. Integrates purchasing, production, and distribution in one consistent plan. 3. Models the entire supply network. 4. Synchronizes activities and plans the flow of material through the entire supply chain. S&P Heuristics Process Execution calculates the net requirement calculation to offset any available on-hand supply with the required demand. During a shortage, the system checks if the products are produced in-house or procured externally. If multiple sources of supply exist, demand is distributed based on quota arrangement, priorities, and so on. The heuristic workflow can be sequenced as follows. The system determines the sequence of the locations to be planned and starts with the location that only has inbound transportation lanes. In case the net requirements calculation is unable to find any receipt element to fulfill the demand at a customer location, then to meet this demand, the product is procured externally. The system analyzes the possible transportation lanes and arrives at the distribution center or plant. As there are no receipt elements at the distribution center either, the heuristic runs a check using the possible transportation lanes and arrives at the plant. If there are no receipt elements available at the plant and the product was produced in-house, then the S&P plan, Production Process Model, or PPM, or the S&P PDS is exploded and a planned order is created for the finished product with dependent demands created for the components. The components are then procured using the possible transportation lanes and quota arrangements or priorities. The S&P heuristics follow certain steps to complete its functions. The steps can be listed as reading data from the planning area, calculating net requirement, considering lot size, evaluating source of supply, checking procurement type, creating receipts, calculating resource load. While executing the processes, S&P heuristics also considers certain factors. The factors considered by S&P heuristics are transportation lane, PPM, quota arrangements, priorities, lot sizes, safety stock, resources, calendars. All these complicated steps and factors result in various types of S&P heuristics. Let's look at the various S&P heuristics in detail. There are 3 types of heuristics in S&P. Location, plan selected product and location. You can select a location-specific product. The heuristic is only run from the selected product in the location on one level. This means that receipts are only planned for this location product. Network plans selected product at all locations. You can select a location-specific product. All locations for the product are planned with this heuristic procedure. Which location you select is not important because the system determines the sequence of the locations internally. Multi-level plans selected product location and components at all locations. You can select a location-specific product. The sequence in which the locations are planned is automatically determined for the product. In addition, all components of the chosen product are planned in all locations. This corresponds to a multi-level cross-location MRP run. That is all about heuristic process and its execution for now. Before you conclude, see if you can try to answer this question based on what you have learned so far. If you thought option C was the correct answer, you are right. Heuristic does not model the entire supply network. That brings us to the end of this video. Here is a recap of the key points covered in this video.